Okay, second time recording. Um, this is going to be a quick test here to see when I look at the video after the fact to see if the sounds are recording. I have the game sounds off on my internal volume mixer, but I'm not sure if they're off on the video capture software. I'm not sure if they're linked in that way or not. But yeah, so uh, hopefully they are off. But yeah, so I'm actually re-recording this. Something happened the first time when I recorded the audio on this. It wasn't that the video didn't save, but I was capturing the wrong screen, interestingly. Um, but yeah, so I'm actually going to try to make this a little quicker than last time. Last time maybe it got drawn out a little bit longer than it needed to. But the gist of it is that based on how last league went, even though I feel like we could have played better, and there was definitely clear opportunities where we could have won with a little tighter play, I still feel like one of the takeaways is that Castle Vantress just really didn't do anything last league. I only used it that last time, I think, against Black Green Rock, when the game was essentially already over anyway. And I just really like the way Fairy Conclave can pressure Planeswalkers, like I said in one of the last videos. And we're gonna, play this again. This has been an all-time favorite of mine. Hopefully I can show how I use it, and, I hope it's still good, because when it's been good, I've really liked it. And hopefully I can show I can show it at its best. It can be very good, but I do think it can also be a little bit tricky. But it gives you always a lot of options, and I like that. I always like having the option to do a lot of different things on any given turn. And Fairy Conclave definitely provides that, and it provides that without having to either take damage or having to sacrifice a land. So in that regard, I do like it overall better than the Horizon lands, but I am playing 2 Horizon lands just because I feel like only 2 is a very, it provides some much needed extra gas. As we saw, this deck getting mana flooded is a very real issue. Of course, even with 10 lands that don't really provide a lot of utility themselves, I can still get a bit flooded, believe it or not, and we may see that, hopefully not, but I'm hoping with a little extra help in that regard in these 2 Horizon lands, that'll be even less of an issue. With only 2, it's very unlikely that I get flooded on these. I will probably only have 1 or 0 early in the game, so I won't have to take a lot of damage, and hopefully I'll be drawing these in the mid to late game at the latest, where I will only at most have to take a few points of damage, or maybe I can just cycle it later in the game. But, they are still nice to tap for mana if I do happen to get them early, because, even though that wouldn't be ideal, it of course would be better than just not having any source of mana at all. Of course, playing all 4 Dismembers does conflict with that a little bit, but I still feel like having hard creature removal is kind of important. As we saw, Luris and Dark Confidant can just completely run away with the game without these. It's kind of a necessary evil, so I am still on Dismember. I am still on Smuggler's Copter. I just really feel like this is one of the strongest cards that I've played. Whenever I've lost, it's always, I've either never had Smuggler's Copter or it's never been able to connect once. It's been dealt with promptly, you know. And what can I say? Not every single deck and not every single card I play can generate immediate value like Silvergill Adept or to a lesser extent Merfolk Trickster. But just having a powerful card that has to be dealt with and can win the game if it connects a few times is very powerful. And I'm going to continue jamming it. I just really, particularly in this Chalice build, because I do like Benthic Biomancer. I have liked that quite a bit, in part because it does allow us at least one cycle, like Smuggler's Copter would get if it attacks. But of course, I don't want to go there in a Chalice build because of the conflict with Chalice. So having Smuggler's Copter seems pretty nice. I am playing all 4, again, just because it just feels very, very good. Sometimes they can be kind of dead if you don't have any other creatures, but the upside so far has just seemed very, very high. So we'll see how this goes. This could be wrong. I have given some consideration to playing just 2, and I've actually been thinking to maybe even play 22 lands instead if I do that. But they've just been so useful when I've drawn them. So we shall see. One nice thing about Fairy Conclave is that it is an extra way to crew Smuggler's Copter, so that is nice because I do actually have quite a few ways to crew Smuggler's Copter. Even though I only have 16 actual creatures, you know, I have 8 man lands, and so that's actually 24 total ways to crew Smuggler's Copter, and my hope is that that's definitely going to be enough. And in my experience, typically, you know, that is just about right, and hopefully we don't run into too many problems with this. Particularly since I am going back to an old favorite of mine, Repeal, instead of Brazen Borrower. You know, I hope I can show how to play Repeal, but you know, the thing that I think is important to note about how I approach Repeal, you know, which I cannot say definitively is the best possible way to approach this card. I can only say that this is the way I've had the best results. Is I think of Repeal first and foremost as actually a card advantage engine that I can utilize when protecting my creatures. Whenever I protect any of my creatures for typically just 3 mana, since I don't play any creature that costs over 2 mana, it is 2 for 1 in my favor. And it's kind of a better 2 for 1 than your traditional just straight 2 for 1 drawing 2 cards, at least if you have Aether Vial, because I just find that the overall quality of cards is higher when you actually save something, you know, as opposed to just lose it and draw another card in the blind. Because the more cards you just draw in the blind, the more lands overall you draw in the game. But if you actually save a creature, you know, that creature actually is just its tangible value that gets to stick around. You know, of course, and if you have Vial, it's even better because then it can enter play immediately again. And and if it's something like Silvergill Adept, that's even better because that's the extra card advantage. And also, it's nice with Spreading Seas. Sometimes you can just pretend it's like a more traditional card advantage engine and bounce Spreading Seas and replay it. It's a it's kind of an expensive way to just generate card advantage on an empty board if there's no other way to do it. But sometimes having that option is just very nice, and that's what to me Repeal is first and foremost. But having the option to also bounce creatures, particularly under Chalice, for 1 mana, is very powerful. And the fact that it is kind of a split card in that regard, it's a card advantage engine and protection spell, but also a board manipulation spell when necessary, is very powerful. And that's really how I think of Repeal. I think of it like a split card, and we'll see if I can demonstrate how it can be good when played in this fashion. I hope that it is good now, and I hope that I can play it well and demonstrate how it's been good to me. So let's run this through a league and see how we do.